Hello, the name is Regis Kilbin, and the game is Heroes of the Storm. And today I'm going to talk about my Gall Shadow build. So I'm calling this the Shadow Gall, and if the AI will cooperate, we'll see this thing in action. But essentially this is a build that focuses on doing as much damage as possible with Gall without being reliant on your Cho. So in other words, we want to be as independent as possible. I think Cho'Gall's real weakness is when you have to synergize with your partner and you find that challenging and you can't accomplish things that you want to accomplish. It helps when your talents support a more independent build that allows you to do damage regardless of your Cho's positioning or abilities that he's cast. So if you maximize things like Shadow Flame and things that do more damage far away or don't require a small area of effect around Cho, then you can get higher damage numbers in general and be more influential in the game, even though you're just along for the ride in Cho's body. So this is exactly what that build does. So real quickly, the Shadow Gall build starts off at level 1 with Shadow Flare, Siphoning Runes, Edge of Madness, Shadow Bolt Volley, Rising Dread, Giant Scorcher, and then finally Shadow Fury. Now, to go into a little more detail on those at level 1, we're going to start with Shadow Flare. This increases Shadow Flame's width by 20%. So here's what Shadow Flame looks like now that it's been upgraded. Imagine this reticule being essentially half as wide, and you'll see the original version. Since Shadow Flame is really your auto attack for Gall, you don't have a normal attack. This is going to be your auto attack every 3 seconds. It's really, really important that you hit this as consistently and reliably as possible. Otherwise, you're just going to be missing out on huge chunks of damage throughout the game. We might be able to see how much damage this actually does at level 20. Yeah, so see it hits for 390, which is pretty huge for a 3-second cooldown ability. So you need to be able to hit that reliably, and increasing the width there is exactly what that will do. Let's see if he'll actually retreat, or he might just get himself killed, but that's the irony of Cho'Gall, right? So anyway, that just increases your reliability on really your most used and most important ability in the entire kit. At level 4, we're going to go with Siphoning Runes. Runic Blast heals for 20% of the damage dealt against heroes. So with this one, it's really not the ideal talent to support this build, but it's really just the best talent, so it earns its spot anyway. So Cho throws out the Rune Bomb, and we activate it with our E. And anytime we hit heroes, that's going to heal us for 20% of that damage dealt. And you'll note this does 600 damage when it blows up, so a fifth of that's about 125 heal. So if you hit maybe like 3 heroes, for instance, you're going to heal for 375 damage, which is really pretty nice. Because Rune Bomb is an important part of Cho'Gall's kit. I don't like the fact that you have to sync up so well to use it, but these other talents really aren't that strong. Double Back is very awkward to use with your W. I really just like the standard motion better, and I think most people prefer that. And Bombs Away is also just an upgrade to Rune Bomb, but an even worse one. So Siphoning Runes does take the spot here. At level 7, we're going to go with Edge of Madness. Increases Shadow Flame's damage by 20% against nearby targets. This bonus is gradually reduced the farther away the target is. So Cho does have a tendency to get right up in people's face, right? That's kind of the goal. He needs to be a bruiser that's right in the middle of the team fight. So you will often see a 15 to 20% damage boost out of Edge of Madness, which is nice. Also, these other two talents, Dark Descent is essentially gathering power, but it's gathering power only for one ability that's already very hard to hit, your Runic Blast. So in between the long cooldown and the difficulty of hitting it, Dark Descent's pretty weak. And Double Trouble, it also is only an upgrade to Shadow Flame conditionally when Consuming Blaze is active, and Consuming Blaze has a pretty long cooldown for Cho, so that won't be happening that often. You're much more likely to get reliable and consistent value out of Edge of Madness, so I think its damage increase will add up for more over the course of the game than these other two. At level 10 for our heroic, we're going to choose Shadow Bolt Volley. This unleashes 20 Shadow Bolts over 4 seconds, each dealing 226 damage to the first target hit. The bolt fires towards your mouse, so there's a bunch of bolts going off, bounce around. This is a pretty huge damage dealer. Twisting Nether is also a good talent, but the problem is it's an area of effect around Cho, so you have to sync it up with your Cho, and he has to be in the right spot, and you guys have to be communicating, which isn't always easy to do. Shadow Bolt Volley, on the other hand, lets you hit stuff farther away, and you have more control over the aim of it, so anytime you can influence your own destiny directly, I tend to prefer those talents, so Shadow Bolt Volley does take the win here. Level 13, we're going to go with Rising Dread. Dread Orb does 25% more damage on the second bounce, and 75% more damage on the third bounce. So that's our W effect. It has 3 bounces whose depth you can control, of course. And you'll note, even on the third bounce here, it's pretty close to our hero, and it was going to hit for about 700 damage, which is huge. And with Dread Orb, really, it's not about aiming so much as just it's gonna hit something in the chaos of a team fight. Like, it's really hard for allies, you know, they're dodging blizzards, they're dodging flame strikes, they're dodging an Arthas, they're dodging everything, right? So they don't always know when the third strike's about to hit, and the damage just tends to add up. Usually it's gonna be that second strike that hits most reliably, but sometimes that third one will just wipe people off the planet. And the area of effectiveness is so big that you can also hit the forts, right? I hit the fort with a second and third bounce for a total of like 1,200 damage from all the way back here. So the utility here isn't just in team fights, it's also in siege. It's great for clearing minions. It just does a lot of damage. Hitting for 700 on the third part of an ability is nuts. And in total, I mean, it's hitting probably 1,600 damage, this particular talent. So that's crazy. And the other talents here really are just our defensive in nature and don't really support what Gall is all about. So Rising Dread definitely gives you the most Gall feeling. At level 16, we're going to go with Giant Scorcher. Shadow Flame also does 3% of a hero's maximum health. You'll notice that Shadow Flame hits... Let's turn on the cooldown. Shadow Flame hits that for 390, but I didn't see the damage on Arthas, but it should have been significantly more since he was a hero in that spot. This is really just Giant Killer. Yeah, we hit Arthas for 430. So, it's Giant Killer, but on your Shadow Flame, it's a little bit worse than Giant Killer, because Giant Killer typically has shorter cooldowns for attacks, but it's still awfully good and does support your primary mode of damage, which is Shadow Flame. So it's really nice to have. Twilight Nova is very awkward and doesn't always do a lot, and Shove is totally useless, so Giant Scorcher is a pretty obvious choice here. And then finally, at level 20, we're going to go with Shadow Fury, another Shadow named talent. This time around, it allows your Shadow Bolt Volley to pierce. In other words, it hits enemies in its path instead of stopping at the first enemy. This can be crazy in a team fight if people are lined up or at a narrow choke point. You can just absolutely shred the enemy team or any minions or forts or anything else that gets in your way. You can see those damage numbers just rolling in. So it does allow you to have tons of damage. Like, Auto Break only rewards you when you're dead. It doesn't even reward you that much. And of course, we can choose never call. So Shadow Fury is a pretty awesome talent here. And it does help define the build quite a bit. You can stack up tons of damage between all these other Shadow talents and then finishing off with Shadow Fury. So that's it for my Shadow Gall build. If you're looking to do tons of damage, you can definitely top the charts with this build, mostly just thanks to Chaos and the area of effect nature of all these different things adding up over the course of a fight. You will pump out tons of damage. It won't always be exactly where you want it to be, but it will still add up and cause a ruckus among the enemy team and cause quite a few deaths along the way. So I hope you have fun out there with the Shadow Gall build. I really can't recommend you go into Hero League with Cho'Gall, but if you're trying to level up in quick match and the Gall build is giving you trouble, then this one should help alleviate some of those pains and maybe win you a few extra games along the way. So thanks so much for watching, and until next time, game on.